They're probably a week away from having industrial grade bomb making material.
From there, it's only a few months, possibly a few weeks, before they get enough enriched uranium for the first bomb.
Why they haven't capitulated? Why under this sort of pressure with the amount of sea power, naval power that we have over there, why they haven't come to us and said, we profess that we don't want a weapon?
It could be due to the fact that members of the Trump administration, including Middle East envoy Steve Witkoff, is lying about Iran and how these negotiations are going. Now, Steve Witkoff had an interview with Lara Trump over at Fox News, which we're gonna show you some highlights from. But it is kind of amazing, Cenk, to see Steve Witkoff regurgitate the same lies that we've been hearing Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu say over and over again for literally decades.
Yeah, Trump says something right before we got started on the show that's going to be relevant to everything that Anna's gonna give you here. Because they keep going back and forth between, we could do a peace deal too, we're gonna obliterate them. And of course, the devil's in the details, and there's a couple of phrases that Trump used, others have used that give you a real indication of which direction we're going, so we'll get to that. And then, people talking about how we should go after the top purveyor of terrorism and aggression in the Middle East. And I'm like, whoa, I don't know that we should attack Israel.
Why? Why not?
So we're also going to debunk the mythology between who's the aggressor in the Middle East, Iran or Israel.
All you need to do is have a pulse to know what the reality of the situation is. But nonetheless, I just want to remind you all of what we heard from President Donald Trump over the summer following the bombing, the airstrikes that took place against Iran's nuclear facilities. Here's what Trump had to say about that.
The devastating US strike on Fordo destroyed the site's critical infrastructure and rendered the enrichment facility totally inoperable. It was devastated. We assess that the American strikes on Iran's nuclear facilities has set back Iran's ability to develop nuclear weapons for many years to come.
So how exactly do you go from we have obliterated Iran's nuclear facilities, obliterated them, to Steve Witkoff saying that Iran is a week away from having enough bomb-making materials? Okay, they have enriched uranium up to 60%. You need it to be enriched up to 90%. There's no evidence that they have done that. And even if they did have enriched uranium, which they do not, well, how are they gonna build a bomb if their nuclear facilities have been obliterated? Like the thing that, Cenk, I can't get past is how they lie to us to our faces to manufacture consent for a war that we would pay for, that our soldiers would risk their lives for, and would not benefit the United States at all. It would only be fought on behalf of Israel. Iran does not pose any type of threat to the United States. They have no weaponry, no ballistic missiles that could reach the United States. Yet we are already spending a ton of money by deploying all these military assets to that region in order to be prepared for a potential war with Iran that we shouldn't be fighting.
Yeah.
Now Witkoff is supposed to be engaged in diplomatic talks with Iran. He's allegedly trying to get some sort of nuclear deal, possibly a missile deal, although Iran says, no, we're not gonna negotiate about our ballistic missiles. We need to have a way of defending ourselves because look, fact of the matter is we live in a region where you have an unhinged belligerent country like Israel that has bombed every single one of its neighbors. Yet Witkoff lied about Iran's intentions and nuclear capabilities in an interview with Lara Trump on Fox News. So here's a longer version of the statements he made in regard to their nuclear capability.
Well, I think the president he gave Jared and I direction before we went over there. There were red lines, zero enrichment. We have to have the material back. They say that it's all about their civil program, and yet they've been enriching well beyond the number that you need for civil nuclear. It's up to 60%. They're probably a week away from having industrial grade bomb making material.
Now, it also appears as though Witkoff is making a claim that Iran is unwilling to have a conversation about their nuclear capabilities when that's not the case. Tehran's official position is that it doesn't seek nuclear weapons and that the development of such weapons is banned by a fatwa issued by Iranian Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. And Iranian leaders have repeatedly professed that they don't seek a nuclear bomb. Now, people's eyes are gonna glaze over when I start talking about the difference between Sunni and Shia Muslims, but Iran is represented by Shiite Muslims, okay? They are different from Sunni Muslims, and believe it or not, in Iran, they do have that fatwa against nuclear weapons. I think that was a mistake, to be honest with you, because if Iran had a nuclear weapon, it would serve as a deterrent against the hostility and aggression that they're experiencing from Israel and the United States. But I know that that's a provocative point to make. Cenk, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so there are three stated reasons for why we're supposed to go to Iraq, and three stated reasons for what I'm sorry, Iran. That was a funny Freudian slip, or appropriate one, and three stated goals of the negotiations. So let's go one by one. One, at this point, everyone acknowledges it is in fact for Israel. I was at a panel this morning with two proponents of the war. In fact, three proponents of the war when you include General Wesley Clark. They all admitted yes. Israel would gain a lot from this. Israel definitely does want this. The fact that they're conceding that is amazing, but it's partly because it's inarguable. This is, in our opinion, it's 100% for Israel. In their opinion, I guess it's 70 or 80% for Israel. So why are we even having this discussion? Second stated reason is, oh my God, we care so much about the Iranian people and they are crying out for freedom. And we just care so much about Muslim lives and civilians that the Israelis do. God, they love the Muslim civilians so much.
Oh, so much.
Yeah, and so does American power brokers, etc. And we're doing this we're gonna bomb the Iranian people on behalf of the Iranian people. Picture this, it's midnight, you're in bed, shopping cart full on Shop TYT. But your wallet's on the other side of the room. Oh no, you don't wanna get up, nobody wants to get up. Oh, then you see the purple Shop Pay button, which has your payment and shipping information saved and ready to go. The day is saved. That seamless checkout experience is all thanks to Shopify, which makes buying your next piece of TYT merch a breeze. Shopify is the platform behind 10% of all e-commerce in the US. Shopify gives you that leg up on the competition with hundreds of beautiful, ready-to-go templates to express your brand's unique style. Tackle all those essential tasks in one place, from inventory to payments to analytics, and expand your brand reach with built-in marketing and email tools. And I already mentioned that awesome purple Shop Pay button. It's why Shopify has the best converting checkout on the planet. See fewer carts go abandoned and more sales go with Shopify and their Shop Pay button. Sign up for your $1 per month trial today at shopify.com/TYT. Go to shopify.com/TYT. That's shopify.com/TYT. Same exact thing we heard in Iraq. We're gonna be greeted as liberators. They literally said that today on the program, that we would be greeted as liberators in Iran as well. So they're just recycling these things. So the third one is weapons of mass destruction, also recycled. And they say, well, you know, uranium, but wait. Number one, they weren't close to a nuke to begin with. Number two, we knocked out their facilities, totally gone. Now, number three, this is important. What's left is they say since everyone's allowed to enrich uranium to energy levels where you could use it for electricity, and all countries are allowed, relatively speaking, are allowed to do that. There's no reason why we should be different. But we will. The Iranians apparently have offered, but we will cap it at the civilian level, and we will not go above that. And you could bring in inspectors to make sure we're not going above that. And the second part of the deal when it comes to uranium is the ones that have been enriched to 60%, we are going to hand over. We'll give them to you. So if you cared about the uranium, this thing is totally over. Iran has conceded, and they're, according to the reports we're getting back from the negotiations, they will give us what we want. That is why what Steve Witkoff said to Lara Bush there is so important. Bush, what is with the Freudian slips today? Trump, although again, very appropriate, okay. What he said was zero enrichment. No, wait a minute, that's not what you were saying before. You were like civilian use it makes sense.
Right.
If you're asking for zero enrichment, you're saying we'd like to humiliate you on top.
Well, let's do a little shortcut here, Cenk.
Okay.
I think shortcuts are important, so you fully understand what the reality is, and you don't get sucked into the dog and pony show that Americans tend to get sucked into. This is not about Iran's weapons. This is about Israel wanting regime change in Iran. Period. That's all this is about. This started off with claims of, oh, Iran is such a threat because of their nuclear capability, which they never really had. And then we get the JCPOA, right? That was signed under the Obama administration in 2015 that ensured that there were intrusive checks on Iran's behavior, what they were doing, whether they were enriching uranium. Trump comes in 2018, rips that up, paving the way for Iran to do what? To enrich uranium, which could be used for a nuclear weapon. Now, they never enriched it up to 90%, which is what's required to build a nuclear bomb. What they did is they enriched uranium up to 60% in order to have a latent deterrent to Israel's aggression. But it doesn't matter. And then Israel comes in and says, no, the nuclear weapons, that's not enough. We want to make sure that they don't have ballistic missiles. We want to make sure that Iran has no way to defend themselves, which is ridiculous, and no one would agree to that, obviously. But again, it's not even about the missiles. Even if Iran had said, you know what, we concede to the missiles, we're total idiots, and we're gonna open ourselves up to being attacked by Israel and the United States with no means to defend ourselves, I guarantee you, Israel would not be happy because they want regime change. That's what this is about.
100%, and that gets to a critical part of the negotiations. Guys, Iran is offering up something that is very reasonable. Take all the uranium we've enriched to 60%, and we will not go beyond the civilian levels, and you could make sure. If America asks for more than that, what they're saying to Iran is, no, we don't really mean it about the uranium. Even if you give us everything, it's not gonna satisfy us because we work 100% for Israel and we're gonna keep going until we get regime change. So Iran is saying this is our limit. If you go past that limit, we know we're screwed anyway. There is no amount of capitulation that will satisfy you until we hand you all of our heads on a stick,
right,
so that Israel can put a puppet in here and completely control us and leave us utterly defenseless. And they're not gonna agree to that. They're never going to agree to that. So when you see Witkoff talking about red lines, that is an Israeli trick. You get the president to vaguely say something and then you go, that's a red line. And if you don't insist that the Iranians or the Iraqis or the Syrians do that, then you're a coward and no one will believe you anymore. You'll be completely discredited. You must go to war. They cross the red line. No, you set up these artificial red lines to start the war in the first place. I have more, but Anna, give me more.
Nonetheless, the level of patience and willingness to negotiate that we are seeing from the Iranian side of this equation is amazing, is absolutely amazing. So for instance, over the weekend, the foreign minister of Iran had an interview with Margaret Brennan over at CBS. And he says in regard to enrichment, to your point, Cenk, we enrich uranium to a certain extent for our own energy needs. Enrichment is our right. We are a member of the Non-Proliferation Treaty, something that Israel is not part of, even though they have nuclear weapons, a clandestine nuclear program. Nonetheless, he continues, and we have every right to enjoy peaceful nuclear energy, including enrichment. How we use this right is something is related to us only. And he's right about that. And by the way, for those, this is a tangent and I'm not gonna go on and on about it, but nuclear energy is important if you're serious about climate change. If you're really worried about climate change, I'm sorry, but wind and solar isn't enough to close the gap left behind by no longer drilling or fracking. And so if you want clean energy that isn't gonna continue accelerating the climate emergency that we're in, we're gonna need to, unfortunately, rely on nuclear energy. So this idea that you're going to ban all uranium enrichment, you're gonna ban any nuclear power in Iran is ridiculous to me. And by the way, yes, it's an oil-rich country, but that's how their economy runs. They export their oil and they rely on some level of nuclear energy for their own energy needs. Go ahead, Cenk.
Yeah. So the other absurd demands are get rid of all your ballistic missiles and be completely defenseless. No country on earth would agree to that. Just a mere fact of saying that out loud shows you work for the Israelis, because no objective person would say that that's a fair ask. So that's a way of saying, no, we're gonna go to this war no matter what, Even if Iran gives us everything, and we humiliate every single person in Iran, not good enough until I have their heads on a stake. Then they demand to be in control of Iranian foreign policy. You're not allowed to have proxy groups. You're not allowed to talk to anyone, Hamas, Hezbollah, or otherwise. You're not allowed to spend money in any direction. In other words, just hand the country over to Israel. Now, I get why Israel's upset about Hamas, Hezbollah, and Iran funding them. We're not unaware of that. I get it. A, that's Israel's business, not 1% our business. Okay. Second of all, yeah, I'm sure Iran is also upset about how Israel funds terrorism throughout the Middle East,
100%.
has attacked 7 of their neighbors. If we're talking about who's the bigger aggressor, American media does this amazing trick where they show you one frame and not the whole context. So they go, Israel is a small country. Well, yeah, I guess that's true. At some point, Jews were victims. Oh, that's definitely true. Holocaust, pogroms, etc. And the Bible, special ally, etc. See, Israel is the victim, and Iran is the terrible, evil Muslim terrorist aggressors. Now, wait a minute. When you break it down, look at the whole context. How many countries has Iran attacked and taken land from in the Middle East? 0. How many countries has Israel attacked? 7. How many have they taken land from? Well, they've taken 53% of Gaza. They're now trying to annex the West Bank. They already annexed the Golan Heights. They're in southern Lebanon and western Syria. So who is expanding their territory? Iran has not expanded their territory 1 inch. Israel has grabbed the West Bank, Gaza, Golan Heights, and now occupying Lebanon and Syria. So they continue their imperial fascist expansion in the Middle East. But the entire time, our media is lying to you and saying, oh, the people that Israel is attacking, they're the terrorists, and Israel had to kill them and take their land. You had to take the land of the terrorists? No, all of this is an illusion meant to trick you into thinking, oh, I have to attack Iran. I have to spend all my money and I have to send my son to go die in Iran so Israel can take more land, the Middle East can be completely defenseless so they can get to Greater Israel. And at this point, they're no longer hiding Greater Israel. In fact, our ambassador, Mike Huckabee, we'll have more on it later in the program, said yes, Israel should take the entire Middle East.
Yeah.
Well, so now it's abundantly clear to everyone except our representatives, our politicians, 95% of them bought by Israel, the Israeli lobby, and our news reporters who are like, I don't see any territorial expansion. I see Muslim equals dirty, terrible, should be killed and destroyed. I see Israel, beautiful, precious little victim. Oh, you're telling me you're not gonna go to another disastrous war in the Middle East on behalf of Israel? Anti-Semite. Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.